long time, and how better we have managed that particular process as it relates, as my colleagues have already said, to the issue of gender balance. I remember at some point it was literal begging of delegates to nominate female comrades to the ANC. And how is that still the case? How do you think that is still the case to this day, though 50-50% is now, has been in fact opposed to the ANC for some time?
Okay. Those were the three questions. I think colleagues are ready to answer the questions. I'll only deal with the only one question. The rest of the question will be dealt with by colleagues. Mr. Mulato, ANC, right? The question relating to the opening, closing at the plenary, it is true that, and I think we tried from the electoral committee point of view to clarify that particular matter yesterday, but perhaps it will be beneficial to everyone for us to clarify that matter. That when we met with you and spoke to the people of South Africa and the youth of South Africa on Friday, we had indicated that we had received from the Youth League the constitution, the guidelines, the roadmaps, which became a framework upon which we had to deal with the entire process of electioneering, including how to handle nominations in the plenary. That's the reason why when we came back to the plenary and the NEC, or the newly elected leadership together with the steering committee, indicated that the process of nomination is closed after they would have deliberated as plenary in our absence. In terms of our own rules and procedures, we had to test that on the ground, and that's why we have had the electoral committee checking through all the 9 provinces. And when that happened, you would remember that it was the province of Limpopo that said, in our part, we want to make further 2 nominations. And we could not close them out in terms of our rules, procedures, and guidelines that we had to follow. And that's the reason why we arrived where we arrived. And by the time we closed, indeed, you are right, we had to stop at 45 because the plenary had exhausted its nomination with that inclusion of Limpopo. Would have been the subject for litigation if we had excluded or sidelined those 2 nominations from Limpopo. Colleagues, other questions you can answer. DP, you'll follow Comrade Sesniki. Over to you.
Where do I pass?
Come and use the...
Good afternoon, officials of the NC Youth League, members of the media, my colleagues here. The first question that I'm going to answer is with regards to the composition of the officials and the National Executive Committee. We have got 6 officials, 3 are male, 3 are female. The National Executive Committee, we have got 40 members, 20 are male, 20 are female. That's 50% of each gender. With regards to the composition, we have got all South African youth representing different national groups. We have got Africans, we have got colors in that leadership. We do not have white youth, but it's an issue that the ANC Youth League in their discussions have realized that they need to be expanding into those areas so that the representativity of not only the leadership but the organization is then being covered. Mawande, with regards to the issue of gender equality, we were not begging the youth in the Congress, we were reminding them of the commitment they've made to gender equality. So with regards to that, that is why the outcomes that were announced today reflected that they nicely reminded themselves and provided the results that we spoke about earlier on. Thank you.
Yes, we'll only take, by the indication of our chair, we'll only take the last of you and we're closing. And then the chair will come in to close. Mr. Mloto and my sister from Sunday, from Business Day. Newsroom Africa. Newsroom Africa, yeah, the two of you. ENC and Newsroom Africa. Yeah. No, not the Newsroom Africa, yes, my dear.
Thanks, Donald. Mine is a clarity-seeking question. I'm very confused as I sit here.
Okay.
When we were invited to come to this briefing, we were told that the newly elected leadership would be addressing us, and it doesn't seem like they're here. Where are they, and why are you addressing this briefing? Yes, but I'm just saying, we were coming here to be elected, to be addressed by the newly elected leadership. What happened to that? Some would say it gives credence to the fact that there is interference. They should surely be speaking for themselves. So maybe we can get an explanation why you, Donald, are needing this briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Malata.
No, mine is just a follow-up from again from ENC. I need to know specifically whether you intervened to ensure that there is 50-50 in terms of gender balance. In other words, did you have a situation where perhaps you had more males who received enough votes to make it onto the top, the 40, and you have had to remove, say, 1, 2, 3 males in order to accommodate the females? Did you have to intervene in that regard? I just want clarity there. Thanks.
Okay. Before I hand over to the chair to clarify and just to clarify on the question, just to indicate, Mr. Africa, that I'm not sure whether you had arrived at the time when we indicated. Yeah, okay. So when we started, we had indicated that we left the briefing in 2 segments because the newly elected leadership, the newly elected officials must address you, but we can't hold 2 press conferences. We are expected in terms of the guidelines to publicly pronounce the outcomes of the conference. That's the part we are doing. Hence I said we want to cut our pronouncement as quickly as possible so that we allow the newly elected leadership to take over now and process. That is why you had said when we started, you had Ms. Matlengi coming to outline that particular process. So as part of not taking too much time, I'm going to request Lisa to come in, and when she's done, the chair will close the session. Next.
Thank you, Chair. We only effected one change. We had to remove a male who received the least number of votes and move up the female with the most votes. So it was just one movement that we had to do as the Electoral Commission to ensure that the gender parity is obtained. Thank you.
Osniki, I'm told you are the one who must do the closing. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Election, the head of media for the ANC, Comrade Mahlengi, all protocol observed, including the members of the media. On behalf of the Chairperson and the Electoral Committee, thank you very much for giving us space to finally conclude the business to which the Congress has given to us. Together with the 9 provincial observers who are representing provinces, we can declare that the process from the nomination of branches, everything happened according to what the guidelines would have indicated. There was no time because we only finalized the additional members this morning. The committee has taken a decision. We will sit and consolidate the entire report that also includes the lessons learned for the coming leadership of the ANC Youth League to learn from, challenges that we ought to improve from, so that in the next election there is improvement. To the observers from the various provinces, you rock. You showed that you are representatives of young people. You gave us a runaround. You reminded us that the process is yours, and we sincerely appreciate for that. You learned also from the wisdom that is carried by this intergenerational team that is sitting here. To all of the leadership that has been elected, Comrade Colin, the president of the Youth League, the resistance, the resilient nature, the commitment, the dedication that was shown by members of the African National Congress Youth League. They actually were saying to you, this is your time to rebirth the twin tasks of the ANC Youth League. They've given it to you by showing that at 3 o'clock this morning, they could still sit in numbers, and more than 70% of them to vote and cast their votes. It's a dedication of unprecedented proportions. On behalf of all of the delegates and the leadership, thank you to the ANC, and we hope with the report that will indicate the lessons that are drawn, that will make sure that the playing field is improved moving forward. And Chairperson, you steered the ship. Members from the various generational capacities of the ANC Youth League who are constituting the Electoral Committee, we couldn't be prouder of the work that we've indicated. And we are saying on our behalf and on behalf of the branches, on behalf of Congress, thank you very much. Let me hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade TG of our generation. And with that, we thank members of the Elections Committee. We're just going to ask Comrade Thandi to... Okay, so she's comfortable that she's been covered by a fellow comrade. But we do wish to, on behalf of the ANC, thank members of the Elections Committee, all of whom are products of the African National Congress Youth League anyway, led by the senior one to my right, Comrade Andrew Druza Libila, former Deputy President of the ANC, for the sterling work to do this work in order to revive the progressive youth movement in South Africa under the stewardship of an ANC Youth League that is alive and that is working hard. Thank you, Mncedisa, from the Elections Agency for that work. I do wish to request members of the Elections Committee and yourself to then take your seat, whilst I now invite the newly elected top officials of the African National Congress.
Thank you.
My dear sit there.
Okay, may I ask for attention? May I request for attention? May I ask us to settle down? May we settle down? Okay. Okay. Okay, we are now settled down. This is the second segment of this press briefing, as indicated, Zianda, initially when we started it. This is the second segment. We now are proceeding. At this point, on behalf of the African National Congress, we introduce the newly elected members of the National Executive Committee, the top officials of the National Executive Committee that were elected in a transparent Congress that was deemed to be free and fair. And in that regard, I will be handing over to the leadership, this new leadership of the ANC Youth League, to then take over going forward, manage their own affairs. This is on behalf of the NEC of the ANC. President Colin Malachi, the Deputy President Phumzile Mgcina, Mtuoxolo Ngudle, Tsakani Shiviti, Olga Siate, as well as Zwelo Masilela. But the President, Malachi, will then speak at length about these top officials, not just that, the entire collective of the National Executive Committee will also take you through and walk you through the vision of this newly elected leadership of the African National Congress Youth League, last elected, and where a last Congress was held in 2015, we're seeing the revival of the ANC Youth League, which is an important motive force within the African National Congress to energize young people and carry out the twin tasks as we seek to strive for a national democratic society, to build and fast-track youth development in our country, attend to the pressing challenges of young people, and more importantly, to be the energizing force within the African National Congress. We are excited at this development as the ANC, and now we know that the organization of young people is back and alive. I now hand over, and I will disappear after this because my job was to just introduce the newly elected leadership of the African National Congress. Over to you, President Colin Malachi.
Thank you very much, Comrade former Sasko, Comrade Mahlengi, and the spokesperson of the ANC. We got our autonomy back. I felt that I must announce that before we start, because in the beginning of the press briefing, I could feel that there's a complaint that people are tired of seeing elders in ANC Youth League affairs. It was the last time we saw them today. We got our autonomy back. We went to our 26th conference to reclaim it. We had a very peaceful conference. Delegates were highly excited. There were high-level discussions. But at the center of our discussions, it was mainly the issue of the restructuring of the economy to benefit the majority. And that is the spirit that we're organizing ourselves on. We want to be known as the leadership that was able to address that fundamental issue. Because different generations have addressed different issues. The Peter Mokaba generation and many other generations have delivered us to political freedom. But that was not a total freedom that was fought for. Majority of young people in South Africa still remain unemployed. Majority of young people in South Africa are still the faces of crime. Majority of young people in South Africa are still highly excluded from their own activities of their own country, their own economic activities of their own country. Now, that is what we want to address. And the only way to address that is to make sure that we reindustrialize, we make sure that our raw materials or all the materials we have benefits the majority of South Africans. Because it can't be right that the economy of this country does not reflect the demographics of this country. But we can only achieve that with the structure of the youth league that we have. The task teams that we had for the past 8 years were delayed because we never had a strong united voice with executive authority to address all of these problems. Now, all of these issues will further be engaged, will further be addressed on our second leg of our conference, where we'll be having full-fledged commissions. It will be a hybrid conference where all provinces will connect and further have commissions so that we consolidate a declaration that will be delivered by our Secretary General, Comrade Ngudle, and that declaration will cover all the issues that we're dealing with. We know very well yourselves as young journalists, you are overworked and underpaid. And no one speaks about that. We only speak about other people, and we leave you guys who are overworked and underpaid. A lot of the journalists are overworked and underpaid. Now your voice is here. Don't be scared to lobby us on many other issues. We are here to speak also on your behalf. We are here to speak also on your behalf, because the work that you are doing to cover us, it's a lot of work. You were in the conference of the Ancyl League. It was very cold. You never left. You never said it's cold. Let's go home. These people are taking long to start. You did not give up on us because you understood that a conference of the Ancyl League means that a new voice of opinion to represent your interest is going to be born. Now that's why your interests are also covered here with us. Now we fully appreciate that. There's many other issues I know that we want to engage. We have not done our closing remarks and declarations. We'll invite you. We must first sit our first NEC meeting to agree on the venue where we're going to have our main hosting of the conference. Then, when we're done with that, we'll communicate to yourselves and tell you which areas and provinces will be hosting that hybrid conference. Then post that, we'll get a proper closing remark. I know most of you yesterday, you're waiting to hear, what does this new president has to provide? And that could not happen because we spent a lot of time trying to resolve many other issues. We had a short time to also elect and nominate. Now we felt that it will not be safe to be people any longer. Now that's why we've agreed that let's create an environment which is the second leg of our conference. It's not the first time that it's done. The NC has done it post-Nazareth. They've went in the second leg of their conference. Now we are partners. We are not your enemies. All the youth of South Africa, the days of exploitation, the days of young people moved out of corridors of power are over. We're going to a list conference, we're going to elections. We're very clear. We're not going to accept any less than 50% of young people in parliament and legislature. Parliament is not a retirement village. We're going to use the 50% of the old that will remain, we'll use them for wisdom. But we don't need to have 80% of them in parliament. If it means we get to 70, we'll be very happy. But we're not saying that we're cleaning them out, but we're saying that majority must be us because the future belongs to us. You can't say we're planning an agenda 2050, but that agenda is planned by somebody who's 70 years. You will not be there to account for all of those issues. We need to take responsibility of our own future. And this leadership is not apologetic about that. It's going to happen. The executive is going to be us. And everything that has to do with the power of this country, young people will be in the forefront of driving that agenda. And that is, we're going to be the voice to make sure we represent that interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President. I will then take hands. My responsibility will be to take hands from members of the media. Greetings to all of you. We had indicated that we have reclaimed our autonomy. We are now going to be running our affairs as the ANC Youth League without undue interference. We'll take hands, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, in that order.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon again, please, my friends, the national officials of the ANC, newly elected. Congratulations to all of you, yourself, SG, President, Zakani, and Zoyo Masile. Mine is a very simple one. President yesterday made a clearing call at the end of his message that he was delivering at the Congress yesterday. The ANC League must be at the forefront of the elections campaign of the ANC towards next year's election. You want to say the Women's League has been very aggressive, and the Youth League has been listening election. It's a challenge for you guys. How are you guys going to take on that challenge? I know what's under Shanghai, but at a high level, how do you see the challenge and how do you see yourself taking it on? Also, EU League has not had national elected leadership for some time. Since 2015, the last leadership of Comrade Colin Maine. And now we have this leadership in front of us, that is yourselves. Most of you guys who are official and traditional players moving into the national space, like yourself, SG, how do you foresee being a challenge for you guys to adapt to the national space and the national politics? And do you think it will be enough between now and next year's elections, which are said to be ANC's biggest nightmare since 1994? Are you able to deliver the ANC majority as expected, as this leadership, knowing that you will have the national profile as well? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Number two.
Thank you very much. Olu Kumloto from ENCA. Congratulations to all of you once again. I heard Mr. Malachi talking about the fact that the country needs to be industrialized and all these policies that you are calling for to radicalize our economy. We are not hearing this for the first time, by the way, particularly from the structure of the youth. We've been hearing this for many number of years. And the truth is, you don't have executive authority. It is the president and cabinet who have that. President of the ANC, who's been telling you what you know already. He told you yesterday that unemployment among young people is very high. We know that joblessness among the university graduates doubled actually in the past 10 years, from 5% in 2013 to 10.5% now in the past first 3 months of 2023. I just want you to specifically clarify how you think, because he seemed to have also suggested that he would need ideas from you as the young people to help resolve this issue of joblessness. What exactly are you going to do which he can do at this stage, seeing that you are not in executive authority? But lastly, I want to touch on the issue of anarchy, indiscipline, which the Secretary General of the ANC, William Balula, has been talking about, saying that he won't tolerate. And he has fired the first salvo, by the way, when he removed your former colleague. There are some people who are saying he is trying to instill a sense of fear among young people, while on the one hand, he and the party president are saying that you must remain vibrant, maintain your militancy, and I suppose everybody is expecting young people to be able to forthrightly express their views. And in the past, we have seen those who did that, they had their throat slit, fired from the ANC. How are you going to ensure that you're not liable to the dictates of those who perhaps have interest in the ANC? We had William Balula admitting when he was briefing the media that some of your colleagues in the Youth League connived with leaders in the ANC MDC to delay this conference that he says should have been held a long time ago. Lastly, the accusation that you are here basically to push William Balula's perceived campaign to become ANC president in 2027. Please respond to that.
Number 3.
Thank you, Shannon Merritt from Kasi Broadcasting Africa. I think my colleague is on fire today. I'll just follow up on what he's asking. You know, the last president of the ANC Youth League was fired for the economic freedom slogan in the 7 pillars. This state that the team that's there, I did ask the question to the election commission. They are here. The person that answered did say there are 0 whites in the 40 people of young people in the ANC Youth League. The person didn't answer the other 2, but I'll answer it for him. There's only 1 colored and 1 Indian in that 40 people, right? So now you're sitting with young people in 2023. We're not talking 1976 where we had this apartheid and all that. So as the leadership, how are you going to unite whites to join the ANC Youth League, coloreds and Indians to join to support you if you say you are renewing? And then on 11 April 2021, this task team was appointed, right, by Fikile, right? On yesterday, this same task team has been endorsed at conference. The conference did take place. I'm not saying it didn't take place. So, what do you think? What was the harm to those that were not appointed on the task team in 2021? Because already they went to this elective conference already handicapped. They didn't have resources. They were not members of parliament. They were not in legislation. They didn't have access to the SG in the 2 hours. And my last point is, going forward now, I want to move forward now. You say your state slogan was economic freedom or debt. I think you took that part and somebody removed it quickly for you yesterday. So your slogan don't have economic freedom or debt. The debt part has been removed. Let's agree on that. Now, you're going to fight economic freedom. You're going to that. You're talking of JSE. White monopoly capitalists are not going to give you land. They're not going to give you the economic. The president is talking about the media that's underpaid. Luckily, I'm not underpaid. And I think some of the people are overpaid here, to be honest. That's why they are here. But you say you want to the media and all that. Come I tell you, your conference has not been trending. As the ANC Youth League, whether the mother body was in charge of the event or not, it was your duty as task team to make sure you acted on Twitter, on Facebook. You failed in that. How are you going to fix that in the future, besides addressing issues of us, the media? Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4.
Good afternoon. Congratulations to you, Mr. President and your collective. My name is I've got 2 questions. Your conference was a bit delayed and you look very active. You look very angry. Are you likely going to extend an olive branch to those who you failed? Were delayed in conference as opposed to being time for instance, being excluded from the collective? And secondly, what are you going to do to make sure that the ANC reconnects? I mean, the ANC reconnects with the young people. And I'm saying this against the backdrop of what one of your finest Secretary General, Mantashi, once said. There seems to be a social distance between the motive forces and the ordinary people. The ANC, no matter what, seem to be so distant from the ordinary folk. What are you going to do to make sure that the ANC Youth League reconnects with the young people, as opposed to be seen as this young people who are seen as a children class, and instead just disregarded the plight of the young people?
Thank you. 5.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, guys. I think most of the questions that I wanted to put have already been asked by my colleagues, but I would ask that already the ANC has a better reputation everywhere. Issues of service delivery and all that. We know that the president yesterday called on you to mobilize young people to vote for the party. What is there any strategy that you're going to have
Thank you. Number 6.
Greetings, everybody. It's Natasha Puri here from SABC News. Congratulations to you all once again. Just also as a follow-up to what my colleagues are busy talking about. Other than dealing with the issue of youth unemployment, what would be your immediate task as the ANC Youth League to deal with issues that young people face? The President touched on this yesterday, the issue of democratic backsliding. It's not only a South African problem, but a global phenomenon, you know. How will you ensure that you ensure that young people actually go out in their numbers and go vote in next year's elections? Also, there were disgruntled NYTT members, there were disgruntled ANC members that raised their grievances over the processes of conference, specifically some delegates saying that they were barred from even registering. You know, have you engaged with them? Like Rainbow has said, will you extend an olive branch to them? Thank you.
Thank you. Was that number 7? No. Okay. I will first give the President. Okay. We will start with the TP, then DSG, TG. Any takers, then I will come and the President will close. Any takers? Come. TP.
No, thank you very much, SG. Thank you very much, President, with your opening remarks. Greetings to all media houses that are here. I just want to go straight to the question that was asked by Mawande. And you asked about how are we going to be the first defense for the ANC. I think the first thing that we need to do as young people, most especially the NEC, on our first NEC meeting, we need to deploy all young people to go to all provinces to build the structures. We do have a challenge of structures that the task teams, you know, all those things. So as this NEC want to go there and build those structures and make sure that those young people are revived. They come back and defend ANC. As young people, we are the ones supposed to defend ANC. If ANC has challenges, we are the ones to go to the ground and make sure that they understand we understand what are those challenges, and then we come back to ANC and champion their interest. I wanted to respond on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, SG, and greetings to members of the media. I'm going to deal with that, the first one of ill discipline that you said the SG addressed during the process of preparing for conference. It is true, the ANC is an organization, and it's an organization that has rules, has a constitution that guides its members. And that goes the same with the ANC Youth League. It is not true that we are going to tolerate people who are ill-disciplined. We are not going to tolerate that. We are going to have members who are going to abide to the constitution of the ANC Youth League. That is what we want. That is the first thing that we want. So if people are going to go out of the constitution, then they don't represent the ANC Youth League. People who represent the Youth League are going to represent the Youth League adhering to the constitution of the ANC Youth League. So it's true, we're not going to allow, because we are here as the leadership, it's not true that we will have young people who are not directed, who are not guided. We're going to have guided young people, we're going to have disciplined young people, and for this purpose of us achieving economic freedom in our lifetime, we will have discipline, we will need focus, we will need discipline, we will need young people who are dedicated, we will need young people who've got skills, we will need young people who are educated. So if we can't just have hooligans who want to run the country. This country, because young people are the future of this country. So the future of this country cannot be hooligans. The future of this country is going to be disciplined, correct young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, President. I will respond on the one on how do we foresee our adaptation into the national space. How do we see ourselves handling all of that? Well, I will just put it to the House that it's very simple. We obviously will be having our first meeting. We will indicate that some of the things that we will need, we will get inducted, we will have an orientation, we will rebrand ourselves as part of renewal. We also acknowledge that the ANC has not been there for the past 8 years, which is close to a decade. So also to respond on the irrelevance, it is therefore inevitable that it would have been irrelevant, we admit to that, because it was not there. So we will confidently come back to you and indicate on issues of our relevance, our PR, how do we respond to adaptation after we have had several platforms of understanding ourselves, what we should stand for, and how are we going to mobilize young people back into the ANC Youth League? How are we going to put it to them that the ANC Youth League is still relevant? Number two, I'm going to respond on what are we going to do to influence policy formation, policy transformation when we don't have executive powers. That is very correct. But the ANC Youth League has got various platforms where we put our influences on how we deem a review should happen, where we think as the ANC Youth League, or how young people are responsive to certain policy formation and certain policy implementation. So, for instance, I will give you a practical example. ANC, we have lekgotlas in the ANC. The lekgotlas always narrow down to branch level. The ANC Youth League was not there for almost a decade altogether. So in those lekgotlas, there was no young people representation. The ANC Youth League was not there. So we will be able to put and register all policy formations that we think it's not in connection or in line, or it's aligning to young people's needs and aligning to young people's aspirations and economic freedom of the day. So the status quo will definitely change, but in due process, when we have been given the platform, when we have had branches, when we have had stability, and that I think it would be fair enough to give us some time, and we will come back on that and give you a response. DSG has already responded to the discipline, which I also believe, DSG, that through the introduction of this office, it will definitely beef up the office of the Secretary General, myself and her, to ensure that we monitor, to ensure that we reintroduce how discipline is instilled, and we intensify discipline in all measures. So lastly, how will we arrange that we have other races joining the ANC Youth League? We will definitely have to confront all races. It has not happened. And thank you for putting it to us that the ANC Youth League has not been relevant to other races. We will take it as sort of, President, another mandate, perhaps from you as members of society in your own right, as leaders, as people that are within our communities and societies. We will have to go and confront these minority groups, and we will have to have a solid program which we will present it back to you in terms of whether it's working, in terms of how those minority groups and races respond to it. I have already dealt with irrelevance again also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. TG.
Thank you very much, and greetings to members of the media. I think I will just deal with the questions around the registration of Congress, partly because I would have been an organizer of the erstwhile NYTT. I think most of our delays were due to disruptions and, of course, probably our own systems internally to say we would know that we would have not organized the Congress for the past 8 years. And our systems, most of them in the Youth League, are manual. And one of the discussions we would want to discuss as this National Executive Committee is to digitalize our membership systems, more or less like what the ANC system is now, integrate and infuse how we do and conduct processes to avoid such cliches. I mean, we are leading the youth. We should be advanced with technology and IT and all of those. But so to say, linked to that question of registration and what would have caused the delays of our Congress, it is not true that certain people were barred from registering. It is not true that we locked out some people from registering. We ought to understand that we're in a political space. We're having divergent views. We contest each other, and we would want to use any little thing out there to suggest that there is an intention to lock out certain branches or regions or people from participating from Congress. I mean, our registration went over 48 hours. Actually, before the actual registration that was here in provinces. So, I mean, it was not possible for us to block all members of the Youth League who are delegates to that Congress from registering, because they would have been pre-registered. They had their packages which confirm that they are indeed branch delegates. But people like have a tendency of being malicious when processes don't favor them, and then they create a storm in a cup of tea when it's unnecessary. So just to level it up, our processes were thorough. No one was closed out of Congress, and we are saying, if indeed people are confident that we close them out of processes, they are free to challenge our processes. We are confident that our processes were above board. Those who can even imagine to litigate us, they can come through. We are confident of our processes. They've been open and objective. And I think that's why we are confident that the Congress was credible. And we're saying this from a vantage point because we would have been at the center of organizing this Congress, of course, with a few imperfections, which we believe that could still be corrected. And I think as this leadership, as SG, we have a responsibility to ensure that we improve our systems. And one of the key things is that we can test them in our midterm through the NGC when we do our own registration. And of course, in the upcoming provincial congresses, we would have to test our systems and improve on them. And I think it's a commitment we'll have to take as a leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. President.
Thank you very much, SG and the officials. I think before I even go to many of the questions, I want to confirm that we support the decision of Banyana Banyana to boycott the game against Botswana. We support that decision because there is no clear explanation why is Banyana Banyana earning less than Bafana Bafana when Banyana Banyana performs better. It's a sexist decision, and Banyana Banyana must be supported by everyone. Number two, the ANC Youth League and the ANC is not a multiracial organization. It's a non-racial organization. There's a difference between a multiracial and non-racial. Non-racial means that we are an organization open to all races to join the movement. I don't understand. Now, multiracial means that it's a mixture of different races for you to call it a multiracial. Tina was saying that everyone must join the organization. They're open to join. Now, there's this thing that has been used in the ANC, not in the ANC, by people wanting to create an ANC to be a multiracial organization. It's not that. Then the ANC says that because the leader of society, it must reflect. It lobbies. It says that it must reflect, it's a national question, what the society looks like. Now you can't say there is no leadership because There is no Indians and whites. No. It further becomes a democratic organization. Now it says everyone who joins becomes a member of the ANC Youth League is subjected to internal processes of the organization. What are those internal processes? You contest for positions, you must be nominated, you must be elected. There's nowhere in the constitution of the Youth League or the ANC that says that a structure is unconstitutional if it does not have a certain races in it. Now, I feel that I must clarify that because it's a confusion that is caused that does not exist. The constitution of the ANC explains itself on what it is. Malema was fired for economic freedom. Not true. It's a lie. It's a lie. That must be clarified. He was fired for ill discipline. He was fired for contravening the constitution of the ANC and the Youth League. He wanted to create a Youth League to be a cult organization that belongs to him like the EFF. There in the EFF there, no matter how educated you are, you can't even speak. Educated doctors, they run around with water everywhere. Now here in the ANC, you are allowed to bring your views. That's why in the ANC we have got policy conferences, we have got NGCs, we have got meetings, platforms, we have got BGMs. Everyone, we even went further during the local government elections to open up our candidacy to communities. That is the ANC, it's not a cult organization. That's why everyone who wants to form, who behave like cult, we expel them in the ANC. When they try to form their own organization, people move away from them. People like Julius is popular on Twitter. If we can do a Twitter vote, according to Twitter, Julius will be the president of the country today. But our communities of the country reaffirms that the ANC is the only parliament of the people. And the ANC is the first organization to acknowledge its mistakes and problems. It's the ANC. It's not anyone else. The ANC set up an integrity committee. When society said, the ANC, you are deploying people in government who are stealing from the poor. You can't be an ANC that is led by criminals. The ANC set up a committee and said that anyone who's charged of any criminal offense must step aside because the ANC can't be an organization that harbors criminals. It's the ANC. When society is told the ANC that they no longer want to associate with the ANC because it's associated with corrupt people. The ANC says, go and clean yourself and come back clean because we don't want dirty people in the ANC. On the issue of unity, yes. Look, we must unite young people. There's no way we can advance the economic backend when we're divided amongst ourselves. Conferences came and gone. There was a contestation. There's a new elected leadership. The role of the new elected leadership is to reach out to those that feel disgruntled. We don't have time to purge people here or remove people of the ANC. All the young people that differed, the ANC constitution protects them that they must contest conferences. Now that the conference is done, there's a new elected leadership. The ANC says that everyone must rally behind the new elected leadership. Now the unity is defined. There is no unity beyond that. Economic freedom or debt. It was a slogan for a campaign. It was not a theme of a conference. I think I must correct that. It was a slogan for a campaign. That Baba Naga Malaji, give economic freedom or debt. Then others came, but want to give a renewal and revival. But the conference had its own theme. Look, we are not going to be apologetic. If majority of South Africans are not full participants of their own economic activities of their own country, they are dead. It's true. Because what are you doing in your own country if you are the face of poverty, you are the face of crime, you are the face of unemployment, you are the face of all the bad things, but all the good things belong to only the minorities that were given advantages by a system called apartheid. We are going to fight for the restructuring of our own economy. It must reflect the demographics of the country. I don't know who you are talking about that they're going to come for us, is dead. I don't know if there are mafias in this country that kill anyone that speaks about their own economy. But the country, the democratic country that I belong to, allows us to influence policies that we believe in. The Youth League is a body of opinion in the African National Congress. We influence policy positions of the ANC. We have delegation to conferences of the ANC. I sit myself as a president in the NWC of the ANC. I sit in the NEC of the ANC. The SG also sits in the ANC of the ANC. Our role there is influence youth position in those structures. Yes, the ANC is a ruling party. We are the ANC Youth League of the ANC, which the ANC is a ruling party. The policy positions of the ANC must reflect our influence. Now, if young people are excluded from their own economy or from their own country, it must be the Youth League that becomes the voice of reason, the voice of the opinion in the ANC. Or else, goes back to the issue of the elections. If the Youth League does not address the high level of unemployment in this country, does not address all of the issues that were raised, all the socio-economic challenges that were raised by this country, it's clear that the ANC will lose hegemony. Now, the only strategy of election is to address those issues. People can no longer listen to anything else that won't speak to them. And we're a voice to say that to the ANC, that it can't be that over 70% of unemployment in this country are young people, and you expect that they'll go and vote for the ANC again. They've given us 29 years to lead them. Now they want action. They no longer want excuses for that must resolve their own problems. Now, on those issues, I felt that I must address it, that there's a new voice. We must sit down. We have not concluded our business of conference. There will be policy positions that we'll be taking. We'll communicate those policy positions that we'll be taking. Then we'll have resolutions that we'll be using to mobilize or influence those that we've deployed in government and all issues of power, so that they reflect what the Youth League wants, which will be the reflection of what the young people want in South Africa. Thanks. On the issue of 20, we've been elected to support the SG of the ANC to a position that maybe is known by you, the media. You said what of president? The succession debate in the ANC is not yet open. The ANC SG is still new in office. They are only 6 months in office. Already we're discussing 2027. In that conference, we're elected by young people from different structures of the ANC. Some of them don't even know, don't even have numbers of the SG of the ANC. Now, it's a narrative created to try to divide the ANC. There is no SG of the ANC who has ever came to us and told us available to be whatever he wants to be in 2020, because he knows, as a disciplined member of the ANC, that the succession debate of the ANC for next conference is not yet open. Our focus now is on elections to make sure that the ANC reclaims its position in society as a leader of society. Anything else is not for that. Thank you.
Thanks, President. I think I will just tackle one issue, President, which deals with industrialization. It's not new, it has been said, whatever. Now, as this leadership, we've made very key propositions in the discussion documents, and you must go look at them. And one of the key elements we are dealing with is the macroeconomic policy. And we're very clear that we are inspired by the story of the Asian tigers. Inspired by that. They had millions of their people in poverty and underdeveloped, like the South African problem. But they managed, through their macroeconomic strategy, to deal decisively with poverty, unemployment, and underdevelopment, which is the South African problem. You see, we argue that, and that's what we are now proposing to the ANC, because why the ANC Youth League of the ANC, and the ANC is the governing party. we were saying to the ANC, look, one of the key elements of the South African problem is the black poor problem. And we're saying the black poor problem because the South African economic structure suggests that ownership of the means of production in South Africa, the ownership of the economy, is in the hands of few South Africans who are white in the main. In scientific terms, there is nothing called white monopoly capital. There is monopoly capital in scientific terms. So we don't want to enter into a language that is unscientific, because people want to be want to be radical and end up bastardizing, scientific concepts. And the ANC, in its argument, never argues about white monopoly capital. Because if you look into global context, what are you going to say? Because Europe is white, America is full of white people. Are you going to say it's white monopoly capital there? So in an economy or in a country such as South Africa, our territorial boundary suggests that majority of the people living in this country are black Africans. That's what it suggests. And now, what is the root cause of the problem of poverty and underdevelopment? We are saying that root cause is a root cause drawn from the transatlantic slave trade. It's a root cause that was been drawn by the 1848 partitioning of the continent. That's where the poor problem comes from. We're saying that the problem is coming from colonialism, dispossession of the African people. And it's simple. This was done by colonial regimes through a process of legislation because, for example, 1913 Land Act was a process of legislation to take away land from Africans. So we're saying, therefore, the ANC must look into the legislative regimes that we are proposing. For example, the last point we are making is that our monetary policy instruments are in wrong hands. People called shareholders. We want to claim economic sovereignty of the country, want to create full employment, want to have a stable inflation. But we are only using our monetary policy instruments only for price stabilization and inflation targeting, only. We're not using them to create the much needed jobs in the country. And so we are saying, let's engage, because the Reserve Bank at the moment, which is the one that has got the responsibility to run the monetary policy instruments. And our suggestion is very clear, that unless we nationalize the Reserve Bank, so that we get the ownership, the control, management of the policy, of the monetary policy instruments. So those are the areas that we are saying we are going to be able then to industrialize the South African economy. We've even said, President, we must introduce quotas, export quotas of raw materials. Must introduce them deliberately. Yeah. We can't be having endowments of a gold, platinum. We have about 77% of wealth deposits on platinum. Us and Zimbabwe combined. Us and Zimbabwe combined. Now, if we don't introduce export quotas of raw minerals, we will never be able to industrialize as the country, South Africa, and as the continent. We must begin so that we can be able to create the much needed jobs, because by exporting raw materials, we are exporting jobs to Europe, Asia, Asian Pacific, or America. So we're introducing those. So that's the language that has not been engaged thoroughly by the structures of the mass democratic movement. And this leadership says these are the areas we'll be punching holes onto. On the monopolized value chains, you can't have a structure of the economy in South Africa that has got monopolized value chains like it is, and you expect to create jobs and to create opportunities. We're saying, let's disaggregate value chains. Use the procurement bill, for example, to disaggregate value chains so that there is much participation of black SMMEs, youth-owned SMMEs, women-owned SMMEs in the value chains of the South African economy. So those are the clear programs we'll be driving. As the President has said, we are going to develop a program of action of the ANC Youth League for the next 4 years. And that will be discussed and finalized in our second leg of the Congress. We may take a second round for those that want to have second bite so that the President can come back and close. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Thanks. Okay, 5.
Just a feedback in the process, if you can respond to my question about perception that SG is trying to instill fear among US young people to know your place.
The second DSG and DSG responded to that. There's no fear that can be created into the ANC Youth League by the Secretary General. We are the integral part of the ANC, of course. We operate within the ambits of the constitution of the ANC. Any other person who violates the constitution of the ANC will then face the music. But the President is going to respond to that. Number 1.
Anyway, what is the academic profile of yourselves as well as the entirety of the NC additional? And I'm asking this question not to be naughty or silly. I'm asking it in light of ANC's posture and setups. I mean, we understand that, for instance, mayors are expected to have at least a minimum of a diploma or degree, post-matric qualification, so to speak. So it becomes even very more important at the level of young people because there's no excuse that I was exiled, I had a structure, there's no excuse at all. Anyone who's 35 was born in 1988, you know. So just an academic profile at a high level of yourselves and what the skills that you have that you both contribute to move the country forward. That's number 1. Number 2, I think I'll put it aside. The reality is that we know that this Congress had challenges. We know that there were people that were contesting, well, attempted to contest, we know that eventually were elected and contested. How do you unite the Youth League in bringing them on board, despite them having tried to contest you? Because sometimes there's a reality of being triumphant when you get into high positions like yourself. How do you mitigate against that and try to unify and bring them on board? Are you co-opting any of them? What responsibilities are you going to give them? Because surely the fact that there were people that thought that they can lead, it means there's something that they can contribute. 3, the term of office of the ANC League has been extended. I'm writing on my brother's question on the whole issue of Project 2027. It's something that is being spoken about. We really can't hide about it. And now some argue that it has been reinforced by the extension of the term of office to 4 years, which means that you as the newly elected leadership now, you go right into 2027, which plays into the theory or reality of Project 2027. alleged to be driven by the SG. What is your response to that?
Aye, pass. Number 2. Okay. Yeah, straight to the point, Marwan. Yeah.
Sunday Times. I think I will cluster these two questions into one. What does renewal mean to you guys at the youth? And are you not at risk of being seen as just being a conduit of the mother body when you speak about renewal? What does it mean to you guys specifically? I will, like I said, I will cluster in two questions. It goes to also the issue of the second DSG. Olga, it's not about you. No, it's not. So, yeah, even that, I mean, there's a second DSG in the mother body. You have now passed a resolution that there must be a second DSG in the youth. The two questions go hand in hand. So, please respond to it. And then maybe to the TG. There's been a crisis of salaries here to the House. You are now moving into the 7th floor, and I believe it's still there. How are you going to mitigate against facing the same issues that the current deputy president and the former TG faced? Because you, like the president said, you have your own accounts, you are running your own programs. How are you raising money, and how are you going to make sure that you don't fall into the same trap? Elections. The president was very clear. I think his message, unless I didn't understand it correctly, he has placed the Youth League at the center of the elections. Are you up to the task? I'll leave it there. Thank you.
So, number 3? Give him.
I think my question is just to emphasize on what the colleague has said to the TG on how what's the plan of action regarding the league's financial comments. Thank you.
Okay. Number 4? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, here from Iowa. With 8 years of missing action, and then now you have all the tasks that are given to you. First is to mobilize people, young people, to vote next year. How much time you have, how much time you have to do that. Also, now you're also on the process of renewal. I mean, we have red thing to you. So how do you think you guys can handle the pressure?
Okay, thank you. We are not going to come back. President, you come respond and we close. Thank you. Oh, TG on the finances, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. I think we've just arrived at 7th floor. We've just arrived at 7th floor. But short to say that there's not going to be a crisis, as it were. Our intention is to stabilize the books and the finances of the Youth League. I think comprehensively we'll devise a fundraising and a management plan. And one of the key things we want to do is that the Youth League must reinvent its investment companies. We have huge intentions of bringing back Lembede investments. We will look into that. we are going to check different concepts of fundraising. We would be inspired by how unions normally generate their income and survival in terms of assets and so forth. We'll do a baseline, and I think as part of our NEC strategies, we will come back with a strategy that will ensure that the organization is sustainable for the next 4 years and even post this term of the 26th NEC. So we're confident that in the next 4 years, the staff at 7th floor and the work of the organization will not suffer due to financial challenges. Of course, there are many issues relating to that, which is the bill passed at Parliament about party funding. Hence, we're devising many other strategies beyond the normal donor funding party and so on. So hence, we would have to devise other creative means within the ambits of the constitution and the laws of the country to ensure that work of the organization. And key to the issues is the elections. As we start the election work, because if you can remember, the ANC is closing all processes that relate to organization, internal processes on the 31st of July. From the 1st of August, we should be having a way to have an election strategy and all of those things. And all of those things and campaigns and programs of elections would need a lot of resources. And as the office of the TGO, we'll have to ensure that we avail those resources. So confidently, young people and the members of the Youth League will have resources to campaign for the ANC and do our work. And I think we should not fail in that regard. Thanks.
Academic profiles. I think we've just received the NEC now. We have not assessed that. But to be elected in the Youth League, you don't produce a CV. But what I can confirm is that, we all have post-matric qualifications. Because there's a myth here that young people of the Youth League are not educated. No, we're now educated here. We're from different universities. I'm a graduate of UJ, I'm a graduate of Wits University, currently studying at the University of Pretoria. I'll make an example. The SG is an industrial economist. Our SG, they want to spread as a public governance, former journalist, Tsakane. All of us here, all guys got a master's, ne? He's got an honors, Tsakane got also an honors. Now all of us here are educated. Now that meat is not there. Scholar thing. Now the issue of bringing it, I think I've answered that. I've answered that how units is brought into organization. I've answered that question. The issue of the second DSG, the constitutional amendment, will be full-time dealing with the issue of monitoring and making sure that all our employees in government do as per mandate. Now you'll be doing that. That'll be our DSG. Now I think I've answered all questions. Thank you. Which one?
The 4-term question.
There?
The 4-term question and the project 2027.
Oh, the 4-term question.
Yes.
Oh, what is project 2027? No, but I've answered that. There is no project 2027.
In light of the 4-year term question.
The 4-year.
The logic behind that?
No, the 4-year term is a crucial element. We're aligning our structures. Let me give you an example. It's not only us. The regions, we've aligned them. It was 18 months. It don't make sense. We've aligned them to 2 years. The province is 3 years. Because the regions and the province, they're almost at the same month. Now, to organize this conference, you need a break. Now, there were no breaks in between. Now, we're aligning our terms. Now, there is no Project 2027. It's only the media that knows about it. So now what we know is Project 2024, that the ANC must reclaim its hegemony in society. That is a project we're working on. Thanks.
No, I think renewal of the organization means the organization reassets itself through new means of instilling discipline. For example, we are in the Youth League context. One of the elements we are dealing with is thinking that insults is radicalism. That's part of the renewal we're introducing. That one of the fundamental principles of revolutionaries is high discipline. It's not insults like you see in the EFF. They think that insulting people, you know, degrading people and all of that is radicalism. You see, radicalism is the content that you represent politically and ideologically. You see, that's the kind of renewal we are introducing, because under Malema's period in the Youth League, radicalism was bastardized. You know, that's why people thought that he was expelled in the ANC on the basis of that generational mission of economic freedom. It was not the case. The president has answered that. You know, it was an issue of ill-discipline. If you are a revolutionary and you are ill-disciplined, conducting a revolution requires discipline, because otherwise the organization will be infiltrated by wrong elements. I think I've answered that. Then thank you very much, members of the media, for coming. We will be requesting you to cover all our programs as the ANC Youth League. Thank you. The media is adjourned. Sorry.